Financial Studios in the historic Boston store. Your news talk leader.
WJT Erie. If I could just hold back the water, or maybe stop the hands of time, maybe then we'd work together and be floating on cloud nine.
And good evening and welcome once again to Working Hands Radio. And that's a little homegrown Erie, Pennsylvania music to get us started. Ron Rose and the Vehicle. If you're ever in Erie, Pennsylvania to get a chance to hear those guys, they're really good. And they're good enough that I wanted to use them as my intro music tonight. So thank you to them. So first thing I want to say is my name is Phil Kerner and I'll be your host for the next hour. And I want to say a big hello to everybody that's listening here in Erie, PA, and also on Jet 1400 AM here in Erie. And again, I want to also say a big hello to everyone on the live stream on Facebook tonight. Welcome. So as we always do, I like to get a roll call. If you're online watching this from anywhere in the country, anywhere in the globe, please just check in for a minute. Let us know where you're from. If you're watching it again online on the live stream, you'll see the call-in number here, 814-451-1400. Phone lines are open. Of course, if you're in Erie, just 451-1400. I'm getting some volume here. I'm hearing my own show. Is it Rob's volume? Okay. Thank you. All right. So once again, now that we might as well introduce Robert. Robert's my son, Robert Kerner. He's going to help us with social media tonight and keep an eye on our guests. We got a very busy show tonight. Again, we are broadcasting right here from the heart of downtown Erie, the historic Boston Store building. And that's what it looks like today. But it's full of radio stations. There's 7 of them in here, and we're in the AM one of the AM ones, WJET 1400. So let's talk a little bit about the purpose of Working Hands Radio. Well, the purpose of this program is to create a forum where people who work with their hands come together and share their stories to connect, converse, and inspire each other. Working Hands Radio isn't not only a weekly broadcast over the airwaves here in Erie, but it's also broadcast globally via the internet and Facebook Live. Again, my name is Phil Kerner. Online, I'm known as the Tool and Die Guy. And again, I'll be your host for the next hour to share the stories of folks that work with their hands to bring a little more connection and education and understanding to our communities. The reason I created Working Hands Radio is I'm on a quest to share the stories of folks that work with their hands, to give them a voice in the work they're doing every day in the building of American goods and products. And I always like to end with, because I think building stuff is cool, right? So finally, this isn't a WJET connoisseur media production. We're here tonight with the help of a few sponsors. I believe in this subject matter enough that we wanted to pay for this airtime and put this program together. So again, we want to make sure you're welcome here tonight. When you call into this program or you're listening to this program, your host gets it. Your host works with his hands every day. I'm a tool and die maker by trade. So I know what it's like to meet those deadlines and work with the customers and, screw things up once in a while. That's just the way it goes. But just one more reminder, it is a call-in show. And again, the call-in number, 814-451-1400. So as we talked about a little bit during the week, tonight's program, and I was running some promos on Facebook, and I was actually on the air here this morning at the studio with Barry, and we talked a little bit about this program in general, but especially tonight's program, and it's Women in Manufacturing. And, over the years, over 4 decades of manufacturing, working in machine shops and tool and die shops, I've had the opportunity to work with many women in the trade, and not really just in the office, but right on the shop floor. And I started off in the trade right here in Erie, Pennsylvania, as an apprentice tool and die maker at Anson Tools and Gauges. And 2 of the ladies I worked with, they were actually the mold polishers. So we'd finish these giant injection molds up, and those 2 gals would polish them up. And, all the women I've worked with over the years on the shop floor were extremely conscientious, very good employees, great co-workers, and, of course, very capable of handling minute details. So tonight, this is a good one tonight. I've posted a video on YouTube maybe a few years ago, and when you own your own shop, it's not uncommon for people to just kind of show up with an invention, right? They've got something they want to make and they want to market it, and they end up showing up at a machine shop or a tool and die shop, and they want to talk to the owner. They've got a great idea. And, the shame of that process always is, for me, is that there's really not a lot of places for a beginner or somebody with just a great idea, a simple plastic part, maybe a complex invention. Where do you go, right? Because if you didn't grow up in this trade like I did, you don't know the ins and outs of the costs, the processes, what makes a plastic part, right? How do you get a part designed? How do you get a part patented? Once it's designed and patented, how do you manufacture it? Because it happens every day. People design stuff that can't be machined or produced in mass quantities, right? So I'm really excited tonight to have our first guest is a professional hairstylist right here in Erie, and we're going to talk to her, so I'm not going to give you a lot more information than this. But she needed a hairbrush that actually worked. And, if you're a tool maker like I am, or a painter, or a carpenter, or whatever, we love our tools, right? Well, don't ever forget, the professional hairstylist has a set of tools that they need to use, too. He or she has their favorite brushes, and maybe there are several pairs of shears and scissors. And apparently, Fran didn't like the brushes that were available to her. And I can't wait to hear this story about somebody who took a product from inception, and it was just an idea one time, and then went through the whole process and actually got these brushes to market, and they're sold on QVC online. So I can't wait to get Fran in here. And then she'll be here right at about just a few minutes. And then our other guest tonight, our second guest, actually works in the quality control department here in industrial sales here in Erie, Pennsylvania. And she has to deal with a lot of different parts and many different customers, and they all have their unique set of standards. And I'm telling you, having watched this trade, manufacturing in general, for 4 decades now, I remember when we used to get a blueprint and you built it like the blueprint, and it was either right or wrong. Well, it's not quite that simple anymore. Companies are trying to streamline their dimensioning process, and they use a lot more charts now, and they're trying to make it so maybe they don't have to make as many drawings. So if you just follow a chart and apply it to the drawing, that's all well and good. But when you have maybe 40 or 50 or 60 different customers, and they're all doing that differently, that job has turned into not only do you have to be really good at obviously measuring and checking precision parts, but the paperwork. So we're going to talk to her a little bit about the paperwork too. So, and I guess I'd say this for sure. Today's manufacturing environment really is about the paperwork. We at our plant, at Industrial Sales, there's a lot of people that are in charge of documentation. And documentation in manufacturing in the year 2018 is just the way it goes now. So we'll be right back in just a few minutes. We're going to go grab our first guest and get started with Fran Desanti and her invention and how she took it to market.
Captain Brad White here, founder of New England Burials at Sea. Because of our well-respected brand reputation, we are so proud that we've grown from coast to coast as people from all over ask for us by name to use our services. You too will be impressed at our attention to detail. Many families say, I didn't know you could do this, where, or how to honor our parents' final sea burial wishes. From ash scatterings to full-body burials, we work with all cultures and creeds and can accommodate families up to 6 or larger groups to 400. Our sea burial tributes are respectful, memorable, and affordable, with prices starting at just under $495. Check out our informative website, newenglandburialsatsea.com, and be sure to ask for our free informational DVD. We'd be honored to be of service to you and your family, for now or in the future. So contact us today. Visit newenglandburialsatsea.com or call 877-897-7700. Again, 877-897-7700. newenglandburialsatsea.com.
Hi folks, this is Phil Kerner for Working Hands Radio. Let's face it, the last 10 years or so has been one tough ride for American manufacturing. Well, this sponsor of Working Hands Radio has managed to not only get through the last 10 years, but just celebrated their 50th year in business in 2017. Folks, I've been doing this for a long time, and I have to tell you, I've never seen a shop that jumps through more hoops to keep their customers satisfied than Industrial Sales and Manufacturing right here in Erie, Pennsylvania. With over $30 million in equipment on the shop floor, no job is too simple, no job is too complex for ISM. CNC milling and turning, robotic welding, laser cutting, plasma burning, assembly, and powder coating are all done under one roof, which gives ISM a big edge over many companies that might have to subcontract many of those operations out and lose control of the process. Industrial sales and manufacturing deals with some of the most demanding customers in the world and strives for continuous improvement on a daily basis. Built in Erie, found around the world. Give them a shot. ismerie.com.
All right, welcome back to Working Hands Radio. I'm your host tonight, Phil Kerner, and the phone lines are open, 814-451-1400. And we're going to welcome our first in-studio guest tonight, Fran Desanti. So welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So were you nervous about coming on the air tonight?
No, not
See, radio's a lot more fun. For some reason, TV and the lights, it's a different animal,
Yeah.
right? So how long ago, before we get into the specifics, did this brush come into fruition? How long have you been working on this, and when did the whole thing start?
I started in 2014.
So it was pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you're going to walk us through the genesis of a product. So I have a feeling you just couldn't find a hairbrush you liked because you're a professional hairstylist.
Yeah, and what happened is one day I was at my salon, and Kathy Dahlkemper is a client of mine, and we were talking, and I had all these brushes, and they were all a mess, and I said, I need two tools, one to get started and one to finish, and we started talking about what I needed, and basically she looked at me and she goes, well, go make it.
Go make it. That's easy, as you found out.
Well, yeah. Well, I was like, well, how do I do that? And she actually guided me to Penn State Barron.
Okay, the plastics technology
Yes,
department.
and
Okay.
she said, go talk to somebody up there. And actually, the next day I went to the gym. I was up at the Y, and I was telling my instructor about this. And she said, I know the professor up there. He plays racquetball here. He says, when we walk out, one of these mornings when we see him, I'll introduce you. Well, lo and behold, we're walking out that morning, and there he was.
No kidding.
And
So things are moving quickly here already.
yeah, so he said to me, send me your ideas. So I did. And of course, he was bald, so he had no need for a brush. So he said to me, he says, well, let me bring this to one of my other, one of the other teachers there. And he said, we usually do senior projects. Seniors take on different projects. He said, and maybe we can take you on as a project. So it didn't happen that fall.
But what kind of information did you even give him to start with? Did you have a hand
Well,
sketch?
I said to him, I had something very similar 30 years ago, and I've been online, I've been looking, I cannot find it. He said, send me an idea. So what I did was sketch it out.
You sketched up, and I just have to ask, do you know how to draw? Are you a decent sketcher, or was it pretty good?
Well, I do a pretty good stick person.
Okay. So
But
so
I had a
so we
thought.
take our stick picture out and out to Barron.
Right.
And did you work with the student or one of the professors or
Well,
both?
first I worked with the professor,
Okay.
Jason Williams,
Okay.
brought me in, and he said, we can definitely do this. And then I had a student, Chad McDonough. I haven't talked to him for years, but he was a brilliant young man, very interested in development.
Okay.
So I sat with him. He worked 3 semesters on this. We sat and I told him what I wanted. And he kept bringing me back more and more and more.
Now he's generating these computerized models for you to look at.
And basically sketches from the computer
Right.
at this point. And then finally we were like, okay, I think we're pretty close. Because I wanted the handle to be a certain way. I didn't want more than 3 rows of bristles. I wanted it to be an injection mold. I wanted it to be all one piece because I wanted to be able to guarantee it.
Now, how did you know you wanted it made out of plastic, and how did you know about injection molds? I just have
Well,
to ask.
only because I had the opportunity to talk to a few people about
Okay.
this prior.
All right.
And I knew that it was going to be plastic because I wanted it to be durable.
Right.
Actually, this will withstand anything but 450-degree curling iron or flat iron.
Just don't put it in
heat.
the oven.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. It's dishwasher safe and everything.
All right.
So I knew I wanted to do that, and I knew I wanted to have a brush that the bristles didn't break.
Okay.
Because that was one of my things.
Yeah, these don't break.
They don't break.
This is almost like a scalp massage. by the way,
Yeah,
too.
it is.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. I've had people they use it on their back.
Right,
And
yeah, it's
everything
very
like
stout.
that. Yes. So I knew that's what I wanted, but I didn't really know how to go about it.
Right. Okay,
know.
so now the big question. See, now they've drawn you up something. Did the first design look pretty close to what we have here?
Pretty close, but my second person that helped me we had a 3D we had the 3D printer
Okay.
brush.
So you were able to get something without
So I
building
had
a
something
mold.
in my hand, so then I was able to take that and then mold it even more so into what I wanted.
Okay, so we got a 3D printer to model you up a reasonable version of the brush,
of the brush.
that you could touch and feel. And is that I just might as well ask is that material they used? I mean, could you actually comb your hair with it? Now, was it strong enough, or is it kind of brittle?
No,
very
because
careful. You have to
it
be
was
careful with
very
it.
brittle. Because
All right.
I've had some people say, "Well, this is just a 3D printed brush," and I said, "No, it's not."
Right.
Because I had the one.
Well, they couldn't afford if these were 3D printed, right? Right. Okay, so now you've got this 3D printed piece of plastic, 3D a model. Let's call it a working model. And now you go through and you say, we make some changes. Did they print you up another one then? Is that how it?
No, I just had that one because then I was finished with Penn State Barron.
Okay, so is that part of the deal that they'll
Yep.
do one for you?
And then you're on your own. Then you take it to the next level.
Now,
Okay.
that's a big question.
Yeah.
Because I think that's when most people would see the intensity of the process, especially if you're not from manufacturing.
Well, and I'm not.
Right. And
I don't even use that side of my brain.
which might have been a help at this point, seriously, because if the work that goes into designing and building an injection mold is, as you found out, quite intense.
Exactly.
All right, so you got this 3D model from Barron, and what was the next step then?
So now I needed to find someone to help me go to the next level. So a very good friend of mine, Pete Frasina, worked at Zern Industry at the time, and I was telling him about this, and he's like, "I know a guy."
Everybody, a guy.
When they say it takes a village, I had a village, and I was very glad. I was very fortunate because everything fell into place. So Pete introduced me to John Skinner, and John Skinner was my angel. He was my guardian angel.
So Pete introduced you. He said he obviously told John, this lady's got an idea and doesn't really know where to go next,
Right.
basically. And it's very funny. John Skinner and I worked together at Tetra Tool Company back in the 80s. And then John would go on to work at a place in town called Haysite Reinforced Plastics for many years. And John was actually one of my customers for about 10 years until I closed my shop. So I've known John for quite a few years. I knew he kind of went into repping. So now you sit down with John. And then what's John's process in this? Where does he take you now?
John he took me all the way through. So John sat down and he was really interested because he loves a project.
Okay.
He was like, Pete said to me, "Fran, he really wants to meet you. He's really interested. He loves this kind of stuff."
Quick question. Do you have any idea what kind of cost you're looking at yet?
No idea whatsoever.
It's like Christmas in reverse.
Exactly. And I really didn't care. You know what? I really appreciate the fact that I didn't know
Okay.
because I might not have done it.
Right.
And I still don't know what's ahead of me, so it's sort of nice
Okay.
to go into things sometimes a little blind, because then you
can appreciate that.
you either sink or swim.
Right.
So
I get it.
So John was wonderful, and he worked with me for quite a long time, and we had to actually take that 3D prototype. And I went to his house one evening. I said, "It's still not right. The handle's too bulky." Blah blah. Blah. So he said, "Come to my house." So I come to his house, and we sit, and he has this machine that he just files it and files it and files it. We file it till we get to where we want it, and then it broke. But we had enough that we could measure.
Okay.
Because now we're looking at how we were going to make this mold, and we had to have all the, as you know, as I don't know,
Right.
you have to have everything has to be so precise.
Well, you better. You have to make sure your product is 98% there, because if it's not, it's very expensive to retool an injection mold. If it's way off, you might as well just almost
a new
build-
one,
Right,
right, that's what they told me.
So you've got to be pretty close to what you want. Maybe a few alterations, small ones. All right. So did you have to get the part redesigned one more time?
No,
Okay.
we didn't. We knew he was like, "Trust me, I can do this," and I trusted him.
So did you? Okay. Besides the 3D model that you got from Barron, did they give you a working drawing too, though? That you had.
I actually no, because when I went for my patent is when we did the drawings.
Okay. So you actually have this patented also. And I think we'll have to talk about that in a minute too. was the design was the production first or the patent first? Did you go get the patent?
We worked on it hand in hand.
Hand in hand. Wow. So had you ever patented anything before? Yeah, I heard a great statement the other day, and somebody was talking about patents. And it's an amazing thing when you've invented something that nobody else in the world has ever invented. I don't know if you've ever taken that in. That that's a very proud moment for somebody that you solved a problem. And when you look at the millions of patents, and you have a unique patent that you came up with. So congratulations on that. That's amazing. All right, so John gets you all set up, and now it's like he says we can get a mold built for this.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
All right, so because I'm going to speak a little of the trade speak here, did you guys decide on a 2-cavity mold, a 4-cavity mold?
I decided, being Italian, we like everything big and better. So when I chatted with John about this, he said, you can do a 1-cavity mold or you can do a 2-cavity mold, but you don't have to do both cavities right away. You could actually do one and we can run them, and then when production gets really big, then we can
add the
mold
second
out
cavity.
the other one.
All right, so you build in the trade that would be building a 2-cavity mold frame with only 1 cavity in it.
Exactly.
And then if you wanted to pay for the second, okay, so this gets even better. So now, do you want to tell us about what that cost to have an injection mold built?
Well, I think it was about it was a little over $10,000
for the first single cavity.
Just a single cavity, but the double mold, but with just a single cavity.
Okay, so you got a 2-cavity mold base with 1 cavity in it. And I'm looking at this right now. I can see where the gate comes in on the end.
I actually got to watch him make them, so it was real interesting.
It's a fascinating trade. So that's actually quite an excellent price. It's a pretty good price. So anyways, because there's a lot of detail there. So, okay, so tell me about where John took you to have the tool built.
He takes me to, oh gosh.
I can never remember the name of that place either.
He takes me to a very, Scott Whitman.
Scott Whitman.
In Northeast.
In Northeast. And why can't I ever remember the name of his shop?
I don't know.
I just looked it up. I think it's on your website.
Yeah, it is probably. And I got to meet with Scott a couple of times, and he did the drawings and did all that for me. And that was an amazing process.
Well, this is one of my favorite parts of the story. So I'm on your website doing a little reconnaissance on you to make sure you weren't like a crazy person coming into the studio, because I'm already crazy. I'm not sure about Kyle, so let's try to keep it an even number here. So as I'm looking at these names, John Skinner, and I see Scott Whitman. Well, Scott Whitman was the first apprentice I ever graduated from my shop.
That's
Kerner
amazing.
Tool and Die. And in fact, I have a picture here. And when you watch this program, if you do later, I'm going to put this up here right now if I can find it. But I have a picture here. I did. Let's see here. Placeholder of Scott Whitman. It's on the air right now. And that's Scott sitting at our golf outing in probably 95.
Oh my
and that's his gold watch.
Oh my gosh.
That's his gold watch for graduating an apprenticeship. So he's a certified. So you got a certified tool and die maker, hand trained by the tool and die guy. He couldn't do any better than that. I can tell you that. He was an excellent tool maker. He was a smart kid. Yeah. So, but isn't that amazing?
I know. Well, Erie's so,
It is.
I love, and that was my whole thing too. I wanted to keep everything here. I'm born, raised, work, and I wanted to keep everything here.
Because there's no doubt they could pump these out
Oh.
in the Pacific Rim for nothing, almost, right? And then, of course, steal your patent and sell them over there. That's the way that goes, just so you know. So, all right. So, Scott builds a tool for you, and you're happy with the first parts that come out? You're good to go?
Phil, I'm just elated.
So you're
with
thrilled.
everything.
Your
Yeah,
injection
thrilled.
molded parts are absolutely great. So, did Scott sample the parts over there, or did he take them somewhere else? Where'd you get the parts run at?
Well, I went to Anderson's Plastics.
Okay, and they're out in the
they're
West
out in
County, right?
Girard.
Okay.
And Jeremy Anderson is the one who, and actually John Skinner brought
Guided
me
you
there.
through there.
Guided me there, and Jeremy's been my plastics guy.
So, did you ever get the second cavity built?
Not yet, but
Okay.
we're working on that.
Okay, so you still got the one cavity running, and then so how did you go about getting it to market?
Well, what I did was I have a really good friend, Chris Fatica. They own Angelo's Beauty Supply. So Chris was wholesaling them for me.
Okay.
So that's how we got them to market that way. Then I started working with QVC. And then we got it on QVC. I entered everything you can possibly enter, like any entrepreneur kind of a thing on TV or anything. So I kept
No Shark Tank?
Not yet.
No
They
Shark
scare
Tank?
me.
They
They
scare me,
they
too.
make you cry.
They make me cry. I'm only watching the show. Are you okay with a phone call? We've got a phone
Sure,
call.
sure.
Why don't you put them on? Hello, caller. You're on the air. WJT 1400 at Working Hands Radio. Hello, caller. Sometimes they don't know they're on. We'll try one more time. No, I think it's a dead one. Okay. So anyways, now this went fairly rapidly. You got some product to market. If you could change one thing about this whole process, I mean, it sounds like it went really well for you.
It did.
But I bet you learned a few lessons.
Oh, I have.
Yeah. So what's the biggest lesson you learned from marketing your own or
Yeah.
inventing your own product?
Do you know, be okay with letting everybody who does their job well help you do
Okay.
your job well. Because if you need to have the right people. And that's where it's taken me a little longer because I've been exposed to a lot of wonderful girls, different women in businesses for marketing and all that kind of stuff. And that's been where I needed help too. And you can send your things out to 1 million people, but 1 million people don't look at them.
Well, that's just it. And that was my biggest concern when I heard the story. If you don't know what you're doing and just send this out,
Oh, it could be sitting in someone's room.
well, not just that, the $10,000 for that single cavity mold, you could have got quotes for $45,000, and you wouldn't know.
No,
You wouldn't know.
no.
So that's the buyer beware part. So for you folks out there, here is a woman who did it. I mean, really, actually very impressed at your ingenuity here and the process you went through to get an injection mold built for a product that you came up with and patented. And how tough was it to get a patent?
Well, it's different. It's not an easy process because it goes back and forth and back and forth, and we 3 times had to submit drawings because the patent office wasn't happy with the drawings and back and forth. So it's a process. That's taken as long as it's taken. Actually, that was more annoying than doing this work.
So, and how long did the patent take to finally get?
Well, it's like 4 years.
4 years. So you, welcome to the United States, one tough town, right? So you actually invented a product, had it to market before they could get the patent.
Exactly.
And I don't know if it's still true. I heard the patent office does a lot of stuff by hand yet down there. A lot of their department, their record keeping is done by hand. They're not computerized.
No,
And-
I believe that because they're just so picayune about.
Well, not only are they
little
picayune, they've got 20 billion things down there they'd have to bring back and put on computers. So the archival work would be staggering. So I guess that would be a great conversation, to have with a patent attorney. Well, I can't tell you how much fun this was. It was really a heartwarming story for me as somebody that's in the injection mold business or was, and a big fan of plastic injection molds. I've built millions of dollars with them over my career.
It's amazing.
And I've built small ones like this, and I've built swing seats that for kids to swing in. I mean, I've built some humongous ones, but it's a really rewarding trade, and I can't tell you how personally pleased I am that my personally first trained apprentice didn't screw it up.
No, everything went well, and now we have a Pinello pet brush.
So is that a new mold?
No, it's
Okay.
actually
A little revamp of this one?
It's a revamp of that.
Okay.
And actually, the only thing different is on the back of it says Pinello Pets.
So for people to want to buy your brush or people that want more information, where's the place to go?
On my website.
And that is?
It's PinelloBrush.com.
Pinello, and that's P-E-N-N.
P-N-N-E-L-L-O.
PinelloBrush.com. Can they order them right there too?
Yes, they can.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, you got it all together. I'm pretty impressed. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you,
being
Phil.
on the program
Well,
tonight.
thank
It was
you
really
very
fun.
much. Thank
and
you
watch
very
your
much.
step. There's a lot of
Okay.
wires and stuff here. So, folks online and folks in the studio audience in Erie, again, the phone lines here are open, 451-1400. I guess we do have a caller on the line. Hang on a minute, Fran, in case it's for you. Go ahead, caller. You're on Working Hands Radio. Where is everybody tonight? Hello? You're on the air. I can hear somebody there. Interesting. All right. Thanks again, Fran.
Okay, thanks.
Beautiful. All right. So for those of you out there just listening, or if you're with us tonight on Facebook, that's a great story. And I would tell you, if a lady with absolutely no background in manufacturing can come up with an idea like this, and knew she wanted it made out of plastic, but that to me was the most intriguing part of the story. because getting an injection mold built is not for the faint of heart. So, Robbie, anything going on social media tonight? You're on Facebook. Anybody to check in tonight? Any roll call people out there?
Yeah, there's actually plenty tonight. Let me scroll down and start from the beginning because there's quite a few names I don't want to miss. All right, we got Seth Billy from Albuquerque, New Mexico, checking in. Andrew Crowell from Gilmanton, New Hampshire. Thomas Blythe from Rochester, New York. Jeremy Bauman from Hagerstown, Maryland. From all over the place, it seems. Jerry Brawl from Milledgeville, Illinois. Gary Carlson from Buffalo, New York, not too far away from here. Larry Stern Jr. from Littlestown, PA. I can keep going. Jason Gillick from Montgomery, Texas.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, you have quite the scattering listeners tonight. And we also have Chiris from Cali, Val del Caca from Colombia.
Colombia! Finally, somebody from outside the United States. That's awesome. So for all you folks on Facebook, we appreciate you being out there. That's what makes this really cool. It's fun to broadcast over the airwaves in Erie, but the fact that we stream, and we are the only AM station in Erie, Pennsylvania, streaming around the globe, and around the globe, we can finally say it. We've got somebody from outside the country. You guys are free to call in, too, from anywhere in the country. Just 814-451-1400. If you want, could you grab, we have a sponsor in the studio. Can you bring Miss Marion in for just a second? So quickly here, folks, again, as I said at the beginning of the program, we're here because a few people believed in what we're doing here. And Erie, Pennsylvania, like many of your towns, was a terrific manufacturing town. It's in our DNA here. But to put this program together, we're buying the airtime. So have a seat there, Marion. We're kind of informal here tonight. Don't slide away on us. I think these stools are kind of high tonight. And then put a headset on. You're seeing how the sausage is made here, folks. But that's just the way it goes. We're live here. So Marion Taylor, and Marion's one of our brand new sponsors. So why don't you tell us, she's got a really, really fun business. And quickly, just as Fran kind of pulled the Pinello brush out of thin air, Marion kind of created a business out of thin air. So why don't you just take a minute to tell us about your business and what you do?
Well, basically, we work with seniors, not specifically with seniors, but we work with 55 and over, and we help them when they're going through life changes, helping them to decide if they're going to downsize and maybe move into independent or assisted living, and then we do all the work for them. We use our hands.
That's nice. I like that. See, that's another working hands job, folks.
By giving them a hands up.
Right.
And so we actually do the packing, we arrange the moving, we actually unpack them the day of the move, we put everything away. We really look at detailed with them, like we will take pictures of how they have their coffee table and we'll put it back exactly the way it is. So when they come into their new home, they feel at home.
How long have you been doing this now?
5 years.
5 years, but it seems like it really took off about 3 years ago, right?
It did.
Because you were doing this by yourself for a while.
I was.
And I used to watch you do it. I'd walk into the dirty little secret here is every once in a while Marion would call when she knew we were looking for a patio set or something. Hey, there's one for sale down here. And I'd go down there and there'd be 400 boxes in Marion.
Yes.
We'd have to find her in
Yes.
between the boxes. You have a nice staff now.
Yes. Well, we have, we do use independent contractors.
Okay.
We have about 6 independent contractors, but I did just hire a permanent employee this year. So
Well, now you're an
now
official
I'm in the
employer.
tax bracket.
Yep. You folks out there, like I work out of my home besides my job, and but at my house, I have no employees. But I remember when I had my tool and die shop, it's one thing if you got a machine in your garage and you're pumping out parts, but once you hire number one,
Yes.
everything changes. So the business, I hear, is growing quite rapidly.
It is. This is our down season, and
Okay.
we are busier than ever.
Wow.
So we're a word-of-mouth business, and actually we're getting a lot of repeat businesses. So repeat business, like a client that we moved 3 years ago, they may have moved to the 3rd floor, and they need to move to the 1st floor, so we'll do that again.
So, of course, if they have a big move, you contract with the local movers to come in and move the bigger stuff.
We do whatever it takes to make that person stress-free during the move.
I got to believe if you're down in Florida or something, or your parents, or how do I put this? If you have moved away from Erie and your parents are still in Erie, and you're listening to this program tonight, and you're worried about mom and dad, or maybe just mom, selling the big house, and how's she going to deal with it? Am I going to fly in from California to help her? Here's a great service.
Yes.
It's a great service.
We do that all the time. In fact, we've brought people. I just moved in this week, someone from Virginia. I was able to help the local person's daughter here. I gave her direction on how to, take a Penske truck down to Virginia, hire a loader down there. They came up here with an unloader, and then we put it all away and unpacked it.
So, how do people? First of all, I want to correct you though. You're no longer word of mouth. You're on Working Hands Radio.
I know.
As an
it's so
official
exciting.
sponsor, And usually, if you're not here, I show your logo and everything. But I don't know if the sound will go through that right now, so I don't want to cut myself off on the air. So, quickly, obviously you're based in Erie. Do you want to give your phone number out on your website?
Yes, the name of my business is Simple Solutions for Living, and our website is simplesolutionsforliving.com.
Okay.
Phone number is 814-449-5309.
And I can tell you, folks, having known Marion for many years, this is a person of great integrity. If you're thinking about helping your parents with a move or downsizing, I would trust Marion with my life.
And I think that's why we get a lot of recommendations, because we are in people's underwear drawers every day.
Well, now that I know that.
Got that visual now?
Oh, that's excellent. All right. Well, Marion Taylor, it was a pleasure to have you in the studio with us for a few minutes, and it's also a pleasure to have you as a sponsor of Working Hands Radio.
And it's been a pleasure, and congratulations on a great job.
This is a lot of fun.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Let's go to take a quick commercial break, then we'll bring in our third guest. There's just women all over this place tonight. Erin Walsh will be with us in just a minute.
Captain Brad White here, founder of New England Burials at Sea. Because of our well-respected brand reputation, we are so proud that we've grown from coast to coast as people from all over ask for us by name to use our services. You, too, will be impressed at our attention to detail. Many families say, I didn't know you could do this, where, or how to honor our parents' final sea burial wishes. From ash gatherings to full-body burials, we work with all cultures and creeds and can accommodate families up to 6 or larger groups to 400. Our sea burial tributes are respectful, memorable, and affordable, with prices starting at just under $495. Check out our informative website, newenglandburialsatsea.com, and be sure to ask for our free informational DVD. We'd be honored to be of service to you and your family, for now or in the future. So contact us today. Visit newenglandburialsatsea.com or call 877-897-7700. Again, 877-897-7700. newenglandburialsatsea.com.
Hi, folks. This is Phil Kerner for Working Hands Radio. Let's face it, the last 10 years or so has been one tough ride for American manufacturing. Well, this sponsor of Working Hands Radio has managed to not only get through the last 10 years, but just celebrated their 50th year in business in 2017. Folks, I've been doing this for a long time, and I have to tell you, I've never seen a shop that jumps through more hoops to keep their customers satisfied than Industrial Sales and Manufacturing right here in Erie, Pennsylvania. With over $30 million in equipment on the shop floor, no job is too simple, no job is too complex for ISM. CNC milling and turning, robotic welding, laser cutting, plasma burning, assembly, and powder coating are all done under one roof, which gives ISM a big edge over many companies that might have to subcontract many of those operations out and lose control of the process. Industrial Sales and Manufacturing deals with some of the most demanding customers in the world and strives for continuous improvement on a daily basis. Built in Erie, found around the world. Give them a shot. ISMErie.com.
Okay, and welcome back to Working Hands Radio. I'm Phil Kerner, your host. We're about in the last one-third of our program, and tonight's program is about women in manufacturing. And I'd like to welcome our next in-studio guest. This has been a very busy night here at Working Hands Radio Studio, but my next guest is Erin Walsh, and we'll talk a little bit about her in just a second, but welcome to the program. I'm glad you took the time to wait out on the bleachers, and we have an interesting entry system here at the studios here at night, but it works. But we actually have a set of bleachers out there, and the folks can wait and listen to the program and watch us in here, and they bang on the glass like we're animals in here, but it's a lot of fun. So what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, and we're going to get into about what you do, but how did you did you personally end up in manufacturing? Is it something in your family, or?
Yeah,
What's
it's
the
actually in
genesis?
my family. My dad actually has been in the tool and die trade for 40 plus years. My brother actually went to Votech for tool and die. So, I mean, it's literally everything has been dinner table talk. I've just been literally raised in a tool shop. I'd spend weekends at work with my dad when he worked at Diversified and he was a supervisor. I'd go in on the weekends with Dad and actually help him keep the wire machine running, and he'd actually show me the process of everything, actually explain the drawings, how everything's made, how the grinders work, how every machine in that place worked. And it was just eye-opening for me, so that it was awesome.
Was that a machine shop or a tool and die shop?
Tool and die shop.
Were they building injection molds there also, primarily?
Yeah.
Okay, because I heard wire EDMs and things like that.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, they do everything.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's
and that's
like,
where's that located?
that was located in Cambridge Springs. They've actually closed down.
Okay, that's not uncommon.
Yeah. And then my Aunt Janice and Uncle Charlie actually own Beck Tool.
I've heard
It's
of
actually
Beck
on
Tool.
Fry Road, yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're still in the business with everything, too. So, I mean, that's another extension of the family that's
So
in the
how
tool
old were
trade.
you when you were going to the shop with your dad?
I was little.
Really?
I mean, like elementary school little.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And he assumed you would just enjoy coming along, and did you kind of just, or did you really do enjoy going along with him?
I actually did enjoy going along with him.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times it was just, hey, Derek was off going to do something else, and, you know, it was time for Erin to go to the shop with
Okay.
him for the day.
All right.
But I actually went to school for cosmetology.
That's
and
amazing. And in fact, you went to, I think you told me, Tony and Guy.
No, actually, I went to Crawford County Area Vocational Technical School.
And I'm
in
sorry, I
Meadville.
thought of Tony and Guy because they used to be right up the street.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still are. No.
Because I actually did it through high school.
Okay.
That I went through the cosmetology program.
All right.
But when I graduated from high school, I was working 2 jobs, and then my brother actually got me the job at Accutech in Segertown. And that was really the start of everything in my tool and die trade.
Okay, so what do they do at Accutech?
A lot of aerospace.
Aerospace
Everything is-
machining, though?
Yes.
It was not a mold shop.
No,
per
it's
se.
everything is machining. So they do a lot of aerospace machining in there. That, I mean, they've turned that business into a multi-million-dollar company. They've actually got 2 buildings. They have one in Segertown, and they actually just built, added on more down into the machine shop down in Meadville.
And how long were you there?
I was there for 3 years.
3 years, and then, and I'm sorry if I miss this. Education-wise, in machine, I know you grew up in the trade
Mm-hmm.
and everything. Schooling-wise, or what did you end up doing was it mostly on the job? Is how you learned?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, everything was on the job. I actually had the opportunity when I worked at Composite Flex that they actually sent me to training
Okay.
to learn the Polyworks program for running the rummer arm. They've actually sent me to, because the Polyworks was in Michigan, and then they actually went through the PCDMIS training up in Buffalo. So, I mean, that's what I run now at Industrial Sales and Manufacturing, is their PCDMIS arm that they have in there.
And
So-
this arm, folks, is a measuring device, and it's just one arm, but it's quite something to watch. But I'll be honest with you, I don't think anybody in there really wants to deal with it.
That's my specialty.
That's your specialty. I get that. It's very accurate, a quick way to it's portable. You can actually bring that thing out to my machine if I couldn't get the part off the machine.
Yeah,
or it
because
was
I've
so
actually
big.
taken that out in the lathe department many
Right.
a times to check parts out actually in the machine. still in a
Amazing piece
fixture.
of technology, and that's folks that are listening. I mean, that's not cheap.
No.
That's not a cheap piece of equipment. So, tell us a little bit about. First of all, I guess you've been at ISM 3 years now.
Yeah, it'll be 3 years on June 1st.
So we've been best friends now for 3 years. And how'd you end up at ISM?
I actually ended up at ISM because Derek was actually working at ISM.
Okay.
And I was actually working at Composite Flex at the time, and he called me to figure a problem out using PCDMIS.
Okay.
So I got on a phone and was talking through problems with him, and that was one thing led to another, and now I work at Industrial Sales and Manufacturing
For 3 years.
for 3 years.
Now, coming from the aerospace industry, and when you look at the work ISM does, and ISM, and when you guys hear me run this commercial here, it's a little bit of everything.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's at any given day, folks, you could be checking train parts that are plus or minus a 16th in some areas, and the next set of parts that come in are plus or minus a half a thousandths,
Yeah.
maybe even tighter.
Yeah.
you like that variety? Does it keep you interested, or does it make you pull your hair out?
Sometimes it makes me want to pull my hair out, but no, I enjoy it because then we have a wide variety of everything that we dabble in. I mean, with the paint and assembly and our weld fab department. I mean, just the amount of stuff that we do on a day-to-day basis is just
It's staggering.
It's wide open.
I've always said that about ISM. I don't know if I've ever seen a shop that does more services under one roof.
I know.
So now one of our new clients is requiring us to silk screen a lot of stuff.
Yep.
And that's I'm watching. I don't have time to sit in there and watch, but I'm seeing the challenges of getting the right shade and the right texture to the silk screening and learning I don't know if you've ever done that before. Is that something new you had to learn too? How
Yeah,
to
that was
really
something
inspect
new.
paint jobs and silk screening for
Yes.
the texture on it. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. So every day I think is probably a challenge for you. But growing up around the tool and die shop, that's what makes the day go fast.
Yeah.
There's nothing more for me as a tool maker. I don't like to run more than 5 of anything.
Yeah.
I start getting bored. I start seeing, can I go faster or whatever. It's just not the same. So your work for the most part is switching all the time. But I think like I said, but before you came on, the paperwork.
Yeah.
The paperwork. Now, I don't know what it was like when your father's shop, but at the tool shop, there wasn't as much paperwork because you're building injection molds. As long as the part comes out right, nobody cares really about the mold frame, right? They're not going to inspect that.
No.
Where at ISM, everything we ship needs to be inspected.
Yeah.
And but then not only are you inspecting it, why don't you tell people a little bit about these the PPAPs and the paperwork for these first. And what is a PPAP, and what these first products out of the line for a new customer entail?
It's honestly a lot of paperwork, especially with like the first off jobs, the 001 jobs that we have in the shop. We need to have the correct paperwork, the correct certs.
Now, is that an ISO thing, or is that the customer thing?
That's ISO.
Okay.
It's ISO and the customer
All right.
because we have the actual packets that we send to the customer that, like I said, the inspection documents that actually have each individual piece that we have to number each piece. Each dimension has to be recorded exactly what it is because when the customer gets it, they then pull out that packet where they have, okay, here's the material cert, here's the plating cert, here's the paint certifications, anything that's like that.
And you wouldn't believe this, folks, on a complicated part, there could be 150 dimensions.
Yeah.
And Erin's got to go through every one of those dimensions and write them down.
Yeah.
And then
Either write them down or type them in with our
right,
with the laptops.
depending on what you're doing, right? Because I know some of the people, some of the jobs we are to put on the CMM that's computerized, and won't that spit out more of a dimension thing
Yeah,
for you?
that'll actually be a numbered system where we can go through and transfer all of those numbers onto the
So you ready?
inspection sheet.
We have a phone call. You want to see? You want to take it? Oh, they're gone. You check it. They check it out. It's been an interesting night for the phone calls. Again, folks, the number here is 814-451-1400. Or if you're in Erie, drop the 814. Just 451-1400. So, is there anything, you grew up in the trade, but is there anything different about being a woman on the shop floor?
To an extent, no.
Okay.
Like we had that conversation earlier about, it's different for a female to be in the shop. It's definitely a completely different atmosphere. Working in a shop with guys, you get second guessed a lot.
Really?
Which I actually, sometimes I actually like to be second guessed because if there's a different way for something to be checked, I would also like to know that. So, if I check it one way and I get it, a little close to the high on the tolerance, I'd like to know, how many different ways we can actually check
verify
the part
it,
to
right,
verify everything.
right.
Yeah. So, it's getting that constructive criticism is actually pretty good to an extent.
To an extent. Well, it all depends on who's doing the criticism, I think.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I've always had a theory, and because I came from the tool and die background, we didn't have inspectors, right?
Yeah.
That's why I have so many tools. We inspected our own work.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are out there listening tonight that are tool and die makers, especially pre-1990, we have boxes and boxes and boxes full
Well,
of
let me tell you,
micrometers
my
and
dad has
indicators.
them all.
Oh yeah, and then you become a tool junkie.
Yeah.
Because that's fun too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because they're so cool.
Yeah.
You know, when I retire, I won't sell my tools.
Yeah.
No, that's nobody deserves those except me. But that's where that arrogance comes in. But what was I going to ask you about the inspection process? Let's see, the tool makers. Oh, we'll come back to that in a second. So quickly, though, so we talked a little bit about you being a woman on the shop floor. Looking forward, technology changing and parts changing, and I see at ISM, you know, folks, you know, just like any shop, we're looking for new customers. What is your biggest challenge every day on the shop floor?
The biggest challenge is, you know, with the communication of everything, with a new process that comes through, it's if something gets changed in the very beginning of the line and the paperwork doesn't catch up to it before it gets to inspection, that's where we have our biggest bottleneck, as you would call it. To then, you know, if I would catch a problem that then got changed further on, you know, previous in the process, that, you know, we then have to have supervisors come in and actually say, okay, we already signed off on this because the paperwork didn't follow with it. So.
Well, and that's again back to the paperwork. If it gets stalled out at any given part in this process, then everybody's maybe working off wrong information.
Yeah.
And then parts can get shipped that are wrong.
Yep.
And here comes the new paperwork as the truck's leaving the dock.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that actually happens, but that's what could happen. Let me ask you a few final questions. If you could change one thing about your job, what would it be? And you don't have to answer that.
I don't know.
No?
I did think about it earlier when you
Okay.
asked me that question.
Yeah,
but
I gave her a heads up on that
I
one.
couldn't actually think of, I mean, other than just the communication.
Right.
I mean, I know that we've actually touched that subject before in inspection and throughout the entire shop with our shop-wide meetings. Just that, you know, to keep that communication going. And I know that we are a quick turnaround business, but I mean, it's one of those things to just get that little bit of information further on down the line.
And communication,
so that
it's funny when you ask people, everybody thinks they're a great communicator. Whenever they do a survey, everybody says, I want a scale 1 to 10, I'm a 10.
Yeah.
Right, everybody says that. What I was going to ask you earlier, but we were talking about the tools. Here's a tip for everybody out there. As tool makers, you know, again, we didn't have our inspection department. I learned really quickly when I got into the machining world, make friends with the inspection department. That was a smart, I figured that one out on my own.
Yeah.
Why would I ever want the people who can constantly give me a hard time about every little thing
Yep.
To be mad at me? So I should treat you guys even nicer than I do. So we'll have to up your salary for being on the program. So. All right, so final question. I didn't give you a heads up about this one. So why don't you tell everybody out there on Facebook and Columbia tonight and everybody else, what's it like to work with the tool and die guy?
It's actually pretty good. I've actually learned a lot of little things, you know, that actually has helped me throughout, you know, doing stuff inside inspection with, you know, the fact of you explaining how your machine runs and how, you know, you're actually changing dimensions and, you know, figuring out how your rapids are going and, you know, just fixing everything along so that everything will then come into tolerance.
It's a real pleasure to work with somebody who doesn't think they know everything.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I do. But I appreciate the fact that when I do go in to chat with you about maybe a problem or a question, that you are open to finding a solution together. So I really enjoy that part of our relationship. So we're about out of time here. We got a couple things to take care of. So listen, I'm going to do a little commercial for these guys in a little bit, but I have a national sponsor here called Utterly Smooth. Okay? This is really nice hand cream.
Okay.
And it's a family-owned business in Salem, Ohio, since 1978.
Close to home.
Is that, okay. So, but that everybody I've given that to loves it. So that's your big promotional gift. There you go. Well, Erin, it was a pleasure having you on. Thanks for taking the time to wait out there with us tonight.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
It's a pleasure for me to actually be on here. So.
That was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and be careful. We got a lot of cords here.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so quickly here, moving right along, I do have to take a moment here personally to talk about a few things. And as I just gave Erin that Utterly Smooth body cream, let me tell you a little bit about this company. They actually called here after my first program and asked how they could be a sponsor. And of course, very busy. I didn't get to them right away, but this product, Utterly Smooth, was developed by a registered pharmacist, Bill Kennedy, and their company is Red X Industries. It's a family-owned and operated company. Their Utterly Smooth moisturizers are manufactured in Salem, Ohio by 3 generations of the Kennedy family. Their family heritage is following the high standards set by Bill Kennedy, the CEO and a registered pharmacist for Utterly Smooth family. The products they offer to the public today were blended by their father for their personal usage and are now shared across the United States and the world. They manufacture all of their moisturizers in the United States, in Salem, Ohio, and all their materials, packaging, and labels are all sourced domestically. And they believe that once you try Utterly Smooth moisturizers, they'll become part of your family's tradition as well. So look for the black and white cow spots. Utterly Smooth is a registered trademark of Red X Industries, and don't be confused by the utters. Visit utterlysmooth.com. So wrapping up here tonight. I'm back. Okay. So what do we got? About 5 minutes left now. We're getting close to 5 minutes so quickly. Robert, anything interesting on Facebook to report before we move on to the closing of the program?
Yeah, actually, there's some amusing comments, but I first wanted to say what a wonderful evening with some empowering, inspiring women in manufacturing. I learned a lot tonight.
Very good.
That was great. But we do have a shout out from Melbourne, Australia.
I got this, for whatever reason, the Tool and Die Guy online. I have a big following in Australia. I love those guys.
Crikey.
And well, don't you? You can do it all you want. I will not insult you folks in Australia by doing that imitation until I get really good at it.
Yeah, also Bill Berkeley from Newport, North Carolina is checking in. Some comments on the paperwork segment that you just had. Howard John says you think ISM paperwork is bad. Most of what we make is 50 to 100% inspected at machine and needs total traceability.
Right.
It's insane.
Right. It is. People would be shocked at manufacturing now because even though there's so many more computerized equipment doing the work, it's just kind of gone weird with they want that all documented too. So that's something they've added on. So quickly, folks, I just have to say this was program number 7, and thanks for tuning in. And I just want to thank you guys for all your comments tonight on Facebook. That was a lot of fun. I love when you guys check in. Got to train you to call in once in a while. We love the call-ins. That's why we're here. But just to remember, we're here to tell your stories in manufacturing. This is not my program. I put this together to hear from you guys. Because you know what? I love this trade, and I know you do too, or you wouldn't be here. So to learn a little bit more about Working Hands Radio, just visit the workinghandsradio.com website. You'll have access to our previous 6 programs. I'd like to take a minute to thank those sponsors who make this program special. I didn't even get to Jack Martin. Jack, we love you. Tom Kennedy from Professional Development Associates. He was on, I think, on week 3 or 4 as a guest. Great guy. So we produced this program ourselves for the love of working with your hands, because building stuff with your hands is cool. So again, I'm also known as the Tool and Die Guy online. If you guys are interested in lessons on tool making, I've got about 300 of them up there at thetoolandieguy.com. And of course, we'll be right back here next week online at Facebook, streaming live, and in the studios here at WJET here in Erie. So I do like to end with this. It's a saying that I saw online, or not even online, in the newspaper probably 30 years ago, and I cut it out. And somewhere in a little treasure box somewhere, I think I still have the little piece of paper I cut out. But it says, a man who works with his hands is a laborer. A man who works with his hands and his brain is a craftsman. But a man who works with his hands, his brain, and his heart is an artist. So until next week, please keep the faith. I'm Phil Kerner for Working Hands Radio. Thanks for tuning in here in Erie, Pennsylvania. And thank you also for being here with me on Facebook Live tonight. We really appreciate you guys being out there. And we'll be back same time next week, same place online. And until then, I'm Phil Kerner, and have a good night.